Unit 4, Lesson 2, Meaning of Division. Let's explore ways to think about division. 2.1, a division expression. Here is an expression 20 divided by 4. What are some ways to think about this expression? Describe at least two meanings you can think of that it could have. Okay? So one way that I think about it is I think about if I made 20 cookies for 4 people, each person would get 5 cookies each. Okay, so why don't you pause this video for a second, so take a break, and then come back. What I want you to do during that break is I want you to think of your own example. Okay, try to think of 2 different examples than the one I gave. So pause the video. And unpause when you're done. All right, welcome back. So another example that I thought of was if you have 20 minutes to visit 4 stores, then you can have 5 minutes per store. Okay, so basically when we're thinking of division, we're given a total and we want to know how many groups we want to divide that total into. So basically we're dividing it into 4 groups, thinking of how much now is going to be in each group. All right, so now I want you to pause the video again and I want you to complete 2.2 on your own before you come back. Bags of almonds. A baker has 12 pounds of almonds. She puts them in bags so that each bag has the same weight. Claire and Tyler drew diagrams and wrote equations to show how they were thinking about 12 divided by 6. Claire's diagram and equation. All right, so Claire set it up to where she knew that something times 6 is 12. She flipped the equation. Okay, so she knew that 2 times 6 is 12, so she made 2 groups with 6 in each of them. Okay, whereas Tyler made his the opposite. He made 6 groups with 2 in each of the groups. Because both of these are correct, because 2 times 6 is 12, 6 times 2 is 12. They just kind of reverse the order of their numbers. How do you think Claire and Tyler thought about 12 divided by 6? Explain what each diagram and each part of each equation, especially the missing number, might mean in the context of the bags of almonds. Okay, so thinking about bags of almonds, we knew that there were 12 pounds of almonds. Okay, so basically looking at Claire's, Claire decided to split her almonds into 2 groups. Okay, so each group would get 6 pounds of almonds. Tyler decided to split his into 6 groups, giving 2 pounds per bag of almonds. So this could really be given to 6 people, whereas this is split between basically 2 people if you're thinking about people giving the almonds to your people. Okay, so however you would like to explain that in your own words, maybe do 2 to 3 sentences. Okay, before moving on. And you might interpret it a little bit differently than I did, and that's fine. There's multiple ways to think about this. All right, question 2. Explain what each expression could mean in the context of the bags of almonds. Then draw a diagram and write a multiplication equation to show how you are thinking about the expression. All right, so what you could do, we could say that we have obviously the 12 pounds of almonds, okay? Then we can divide it into 4s. So we've got this would represent the 12 pounds, the total. Okay, if we divide it into 4s, that means there would be 3 pounds per group. And so basically to reverse that, to make this multiplication, if 12 divided by 4 is 3, then that means that 4 times 3 is equal to 12. Okay. Another way to think about B, we've got 12 divided by 2. Okay, so again, we could have the 12 pounds of almonds, and we could just divide it into 2. And so 12 divided by 2, well, we know that each one has to be 6. So to reverse that, 2 times 6 is equal to 12. All right, and the next one, so 12 divided by 1/2. All right, so what we're doing is we've got 12, okay, and we want to divide it into 1/2, okay? So if you think about this, what do you think this actually means? Because if you were to reverse it, we need something 1/2 times something is equal to 12. Okay, so if we were to split this, okay, what do you think about splitting this? Because what times 1/2 is equal to 12? And sometimes you might have to think about it before you even put your groups up. So you might automatically think, well, it's going to be the same as B. But that's not correct, because on B, we divided it into 2. On this one, we're wanting to divide it into 1/2, which dividing by 1/2 is the same as multiplying by 2. Okay, so basically, this is saying 12 times 2 is equal to 24. Okay, and so then we have over here 1/2 times 24 is equal to 12. And that can be a little bit confusing if you don't think about it. Okay, so basically we need it to be in 24 pieces, but each piece would have to represent 1/2 so that we could get the total of 12. So we'd have 1/2, 1/2, we'd have 24 1/2s in here. And as long as you guys can realize that, I'm not going to keep going, but you know there would have to be 24 1/2s. All right, so kind of pause and think about that. Discuss it with others around you if you're still a little bit confused. All right, are you ready for more? So normally we don't do these, but I thought this one was a really good example. So we've got a loaf of bread is cut into slices. If each slice is 1/2 of the loaf, how many slices are there? So here's the loaf, and if it's in 1/2, that just means there's 2 slices. Okay, if each slice is 1/5, remember the denominator basically tells us how many pieces we have. So this would be 5, and so 5 slices if each slice is 1/5. What happens to the number of slices as each slice gets smaller? Okay, so the number of slices would increase. So if you think about it, we had 2 slices here, but then as we increase the number of slices, they get smaller. Okay, so what happens to the number of slices as each slice gets smaller? The slice amount increases, or the amount of slices increases. All right, Interpret the meaning of dividing by 0 in the context of slicing bread. We can't divide by 0 because that's trying to say that we have 0 of something. So remember, the denominator told us how much we wanted to cut the loaf in. Well, this is saying we don't even have a loaf. So there's nothing to divide into 2. Now, opposite of this is 0 divided by 2. Well, that means we have 2 of something, and we want to divide it into 0, which equals 2. But this is not possible because that means we're starting out with nothing, but we want to make it into 2. This one means we're starting out with 2, but we don't want to do nothing with it. Think of that in the context of bread. You don't have any loaves of bread, but you wanted to cut it in half. That's not possible. But if you had a loaf of bread and you were told to cut it in 2, but you don't want to cut it into anything, you don't have to. Okay, I hope that makes sense for you guys. All right, so that was the end of lesson 2. To finish up, I want you to read through the summary. So go to the summary page, which is on page 12, and then scoot over and complete your practice problems.